Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's EBC video. We're in Chanhassen, Minnesota this week. We're at the Mustard Seed. It's a fantastic landscaping and gardening place, and we're here because we're going to be talking about Mark 4 verses 26 through 34. And there's a couple of parables in Mark 4, and one of them is the parable of the mustard seed. But let's start here with where Jesus starts. He has two parables, and the first one is a little bit more just generically about the fact that the kingdom of heaven is like a person who goes out and sows. And he says that, that seed sprouts without really knowing how or why it sprouts. Then it grows and it gets grain, and after it has the grain, then that grain is harvested because it's harvest time. And that's the first of the two parables. And then the second parable is that parable of the mustard seed. And he starts this parable in a really fascinating, intimate way. Because first he actually asks, to what should we compare the kingdom of heaven? Or what parable should we use for it? It's sort of one of the rare times that Jesus actually talks to his disciples asking the question, what should we be saying for this parable, right? And it got me thinking a little bit about what is Jesus doing when he's using parables. We see the idea of parables a lot in the Bible. There's like 60 or 70 references to parables. One of the things that we see is in the Old Testament, the idea of parables actually being used specifically to bring the information from ancestors forward. So that's one fantastic way in which parables are used. But we also see the idea of parables being used to tell the disciples and relate to the disciples, help them to understand things. And Jesus actually then talks through the parables with his disciples, and we see that in the Bible too. There's another really interesting aspect of parables, and that is that in other places, not in Mark, but in other places in Matthew, there are places where Jesus says a little more specifically that he's using the parables so that people hear, but they don't necessarily understand, and then he's telling the disciples what they're about. And so it got me to wondering, are we telling the parables because they're helpful? Are we telling the parables because we're hiding some secret from only certain people can know and others can't? What are we doing with the parables? But in this parable of the mustard seed, Jesus is really clear. He actually asks the disciples for their thoughts. What should we compare the kingdom of heaven to? And it's a mustard seed. Because the mustard seed starts as the smallest little thing and grows into the greatest of shrubs, the way Jesus describes it. So that's one of the ways we can think of the kingdom of heaven. But there's one more really important detail here. And the really important detail is that what Jesus says is when it grows into that great big shrub, it's there as a place for the birds to be and live in. And so as we think about what Jesus is talking about in that parable, we think about the fact that we start really small for ourselves, for the things around us. We grow into something a lot bigger, what God had in mind for us. But then there's one more important aspect, which is that we are going to be service to others, a place for sanctuary for others. And it's true for us, and then it's true for the kingdom of God too, right? It's true in the sense that God starts small in each of us, but he's also got this place for us, a place where we can come and rest and be a part of his glory. So everyone, have a fantastic week as you think about parables in the Bible and what they mean for you.